We have had the technology to create, control, and steer hurricanes for decades.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's atmospheric research department and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus, but the government denied it for 12 years. After a short delay, the project officially continued, and in 1965, Project Storm Fury had targeted Hurricane Betsy for seeding. On that day, the storm immediately changed direction and made landfall in southern Florida. Congress blamed it on Project Storm Fury, but the government claimed that the hurricane shifted before they ever had a chance to seed it. And after 2 months of congressional hearings, the project was allowed to continue. In 1997, U.S. Defense Secretary William Cohen admitted we have the technology to control the weather, including earthquakes and volcanoes. The U.S. government has placed gag orders on employees of the National Weather Service. In October of 2012, after Hurricane Sandy weakened to a tropical storm, microwave imagery shows a thick red beam immediately followed by Sandy growing into a Category 1 hurricane and taking an unexplained left turn into New Jersey. The push towards alternative energy demands more lithium, and according to the U.S. Geological Survey, the United States has over 6 million tons of identified lithium resources. The majority of this lithium has been identified in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Kings Mountain is believed to have one of the largest resources in the world, but the biggest problem is that people live there and they don't want their quiet towns turned into lithium mines.
People in Cherville have been pushing against a proposed lithium mine for the last several years, but everyone we spoke with here said it's too divisive of an issue to share their opinion on camera. Cherryville is a small, quiet town.
I think that's good that we keep it small.
So quiet, many don't feel comfortable speaking out against Piedmont Lithium's proposed mining operation nearby.
I think we're a silent majority. I think a lot of people are afraid to say anything about it because they are bringing a lot to the town as far as money.
Last year, the Department of Defense entered a $90 million agreement with Albemarle Corporation to increase domestic production of lithium for the nation's battery supply chain, specifically from Kings Mountain, North Carolina, starting by 2025. This is the same area experiencing what is being described as biblical floods. While the federal government spends billions on foreign wars and illegal immigrants, they simply cannot be bothered with the health and well-being of the American people, especially those living on coveted mineral-rich land. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
If the road were easy, everyone would take it. We don't shy away from challenges. We dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Let this be an emergency broadcast, an emergency message sent out to you in the very short period of time, less than 30 days we have until the most important election in history. Now, the Democrats and the Republicans are working against us as we, the people. let's be sure to not just focus everything on the Democrats. One thing I want to go through today that I think is so important after this preview that we saw last night of the Hunter's laptop with the George Papadopoulos, and I had a chance to talk to him for just a quick second. They're very over the target. They're very focused and everything else. But one thing that I did notice is the crowd attendance. Yeah, they threw it together in 2 weeks, but I just looked around and realized how sad it was, how uninvolved every single one of these Oregonians are. You know, there was less than 100 people there, and it was really disappointing. And that's something to be concerned about. That's something to look at. You know, are people just fat and happy and just willing to take this tyrannical system that is knocking down our doorstep right now? Are they unwilling to get out of their bubble? I get it. We all have responsibilities and we all have everything. You know, I sacrifice a lot. I sacrifice a lot of time, very important time with my family to do things like that. And, you know, that's just what you have to do. But is it really making a difference? Is it really making a difference going through to these same echo chambers, speaking to the same people about the same thing, and really not getting anywhere with it in regards to the general masses and the general public? That's one of my big gripes. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to talk about too much of the news. I'm going to play some clips on these next segments and talk about, you know, a couple little things. But the most important thing I want everybody that's listening today to understand is we're on borrowed time right now. There is a massive, massive escalation happening all over the world, but also in the United States. It's kind of the calm before the storm, because I believe we are going to endure at any moment, even today, we're going to have a massive black swan type of event times 100 in order to steal the elections. And it could be a banking collapse, could be a power outage, could be an earthquake. Sources tell me that we are due for an earthquake here in Oregon, a massive scale earthquake along Cascadia, which the ODOT and Department of Forestry are very aware of this, and they're actually building an alternative route closer to the eastern side, on the other side, the eastern side of the mountains, at an I-5 level scale, because they don't plan on I-5 actually being there in the near future due to a massive earthquake that could be underway. That's something that nobody's talking about. Now, if you listen to the Greg Reese report, they talk about weather modification and being able to manipulate hurricanes. That is old technology. That's not a conspiracy in any way. It's not a conspiracy. It's been around. Governments all over the world are capable in doing that. And if you look up in the sky and you look at these cloud seeding, these chemtrails, these trails that are coming out of these planes, that is weather modification and weather manipulation. So if anybody wants to have a climate change, a climate activist is getting in your face and wanting to talk about stuff, you have to have that conversation about weather weapons, weather modification programs that have been around for 20, 30, 40, going all the way back to the 40s is when they initiated it. So if you can't have that conversation, then you can't do that. Now, with North Carolina, which was hit the worst, you know, northern Florida and Tennessee, the massive flooding that came out of nowhere and basically devastated massive amount of communities of, you know, Trump supporting MAGA communities. How convenient. There's question whether they're going to even be able to vote. There's been reports. It's kind of all over the place. I think they're slow dripping it to the public. I've seen as much as 1,200 bodies have been found. And they just ordered another 500 body bags, and they're being blocked by FEMA. It's very egregious what's happening. But as you know, if it hasn't hit you yet, the federal government and most of the government is complicit, and they are not going to help you and not going to save you, which goes into what I want to talk about. Now, I had an interesting conversation last night with a lady who was like, hey, what do we do? What do we do? How do we prepare? What do we do? Now, I've talked about it on different shows before, so I'm going to go through just a little section and a little blip, but I want to dive into this book that is very informative. It's very effective. It was written by a Special Forces operator and multiple soldiers are contributors, but it's by Jack Lawson. It's called The Civil Defense Manual, and this is volume 2. You can get volume 1, volume 2, and it goes through disaster preparedness and then how to react in a disaster situation, protect yourself in a defensive position for oncoming, I believe, militant migrant waves that are going to start going door to door in giant army gangs, and they're going to be they've been funneled and funded by our government. And if you don't believe me, just do some research. I'm not even going to go into it. I don't care. If you don't understand this stuff right now and you don't realize the state of the world that we're in right now, then I can't help you, and I don't even bother to talk to you. Just go ahead and turn this show off, because I'm not interested in these nonsense debacles and debates of whether this is happening or not. You know it's happening. You can feel it in your gut. You know this is happening. But again, we're on God's time, and you can't live in fear, but you can be prepared. So one of the sections I want to talk about is grid down intelligence gathering. This is where it comes down to talking about the importance of getting in touch with your neighbors and having community within your neighborhood, knowing who's on board and who's not on board, and having these conversations. I would recommend doing monthly, possibly weekly or bi-weekly, just meetings, dinners, barbecues. I know it's getting into the cold, rainy season, so barbecues might be a little bit harder unless you got, a closed storage space. But it's important to have these conversations. I mean, even 30 minutes to an hour, on a Sunday evening or afternoon. Invite everybody over and talk about, hey guys, as you know, the world's getting crazy, and you don't have to be radical about what you talk about, but just talk about, what are we going to do if this happens? If the power goes out, who's got generators? Who knows how to do this? Who knows how to do that? Start having these conversations. And one of the other things that's very cheap and very effective is to get shortwave radios. The Baofangs, I think, are like $60 online. You can get an 8-watt or a 10-watt Baofang, and then just write down a bunch of different frequencies in case the frequencies get jammed. You have a variable bandwidth that you can move to, and get radios, and get everybody to buy their own radios, or if they can't afford them, just buy them for them. I have stacks and stacks of radios that I've given out to the neighborhood and everything else, just because it's good to have. The cell phone systems go out. Yeah, we can go out of our house, everything else, but it's also important for intelligence gathering. So intelligence gathering is, hey, somebody's trying to break into my house. Boom, you jump on the radio. Now you got 10 people around your neighborhood that are able to go confront that guy or group or gang, or, hey, somebody's locked in or their house is on fire or something like that. It's good to have communication. It's good to know who you're around. And that's the fundamental thing that this book talks about on how people survive in the oncoming thing. Now, what are they going to do? What's the move? Trump's leading in a landslide, even on the skewed polls, saying he's only up by 4 or 5 points. It's actually probably 15. There's an absolute domination and roaring back of the American spirit that's coming all over. But is it happening here in Oregon? Well, yesterday, I would say no. The Republican Party is divided. There's the rhinos that are trying to capture and just maintain status quo, business as usual. And there are not enough people that are willing to fight and do what needs to be done in order to preserve this republic. And they're getting too fat and too happy. I don't know if it's the fluoride in the water. I don't know if it's the microwave frequencies that's making everybody so docile. But what do we do? We can't worry about them if they're not unwilling to accept the hard, harsh reality that we're in. And we are facing possibly the last days of this state and of this country if we don't get involved and get activated. You listen to Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Follow me on X at NonCompliantAF, and we'll be right back. Hey, thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on X at NonCompliantAF for all all the most recent news related to this show. And make sure to like and subscribe either on Spotify, Apple Podcast, however you're listening to this show. Make sure to follow us, noncompliantamerica.com. I'm Joshua Michael. Support us in every way possible in getting this message out, because you are the resistance and you are the future of this country.
It's time to unmask the truth and expose the lies. The occupied forces do not want you to hear this broadcast. Breaking through the censorship and delivering raw, unedited content. It's Joshua Michael with Non-Compliant America.
All right, I'm back. I don't have a positive message today because I'm not feeling very positive. The one thing that I am positive about is that your life is going to change whether you choose to accept it or not. And a massive amount of shift is happening right now. We are on the precipice of falling into the biggest financial collapse that we've ever seen. If you don't have gold, silver, Bitcoin, any type of reserve, and you just got money sitting in your bank account, or you got everything tied up into the assets of your home or anything like that, you will then be a victim of what's coming. They're not talking about it specifically because they don't want you to get prepared. And what I want to talk about today is getting prepared. And one of the things that you can do is talk with your community, talk with your neighbors, and start getting radios and having meetings and having discussions about this. Because as you know, if you watch the real videos, not the news, if you're still watching cable television, you've already lost. If you're still watching Fox News, you're already lost. They are so irrelevant. They're so irrelevant in every way that you're not going to get real information. So if you're not on X right now, watching what's actually happening over there and how the federal government and FEMA are drastically dragging their feet, either because they say that they're underfunded because they gave over 20, I think it's either 20 million or 20 billion. I think they gave $20 billion to all the illegals that they're bringing into this country. To take your house, to take your jobs, to take your wealth, to take everything from you and turn this into a third world hellhole, which then can be controlled and managed by a global government system, i.e. the UN or the World Bank or BlackRock, Vanguard, these corporations that have more power and more reach than the United States government. And that's why when we watch videos like this Hunter's laptop, you know, you got to ask yourself, why is nothing happening to these guys? Why can Hunter Biden go in to his conference or to his congressional subpoena and be like, I'm scared. Why are you guys yelling at me? I can't handle it. It's because there are people outside of our government that are actually running things. People like Klaus Schwab, who recently stepped down, Bill Gates, George Soros, all the usual suspects, BlackRock, Vanguard. These oligarchs are controlling everything. And they're using our own system against us because we're cowardly and we're unable to organize and stand up and get in control our country back. And the only way we can do that is locally, county by county. Don't support these rhinos in the Republican Party if they're not doing your bidding. If they're unwilling to stand up and tell what needs to be said and represent the people, then we got to vote them out. And if that means we disenfranchise the Republican Party, who cares? Who cares? Why do we need to preserve something that's not working for us? That's my 2 cents. So let's get into this grid down intelligence gathering. I just want to give a little blip of this because I think it's important. So what it says is, you know, finding known sources, finding known people around, and make sure that you guys get radios. Simultaneously, you'll need to power up some police scanners and radios, even though that the police are now using encrypted radios. They're not over the airwaves like they used to. Why would they change their communication tactics? Why would the police then stop using, which they've been using for since the beginning of time, since the beginning of police stations and radios? Why are they changing to more of an encrypted thing? So now it's harder and harder to get on the police scanners and hear what's actually happening. So you definitely want to get a police scanner and radios. Your police scanners need to be programmed for your area. So if you can go on, I know you can go on to the state website, and it gives you all of the police scanner codes. They have multiple frequencies that they use. Marion County uses a frequency. State police uses a different frequency, and Salem police uses a different frequency. So it's just good to have in a grid down type scenario to be able to know what's going on in your area, in your neighborhood. So that's first and foremost. Second, you want to get radios for all your neighbors. If you have all your neighbors that are out watching and looking and seeing what's going on, they're able to all communicate with each other to where you guys can get a handle with what's going on in the area and respond accordingly. If you don't have Starlink at this point, I recommend buying Starlink right now. It's very easy. I know Costco has them right now. Even though I don't shop at Costco anymore, I know that they have Starlinks there. You can go. It's very easy to set up. It's plug and play. You open the app on your phone, and you simply just follow the instructions. It's the easiest thing that I've ever set up. And then you just turn the satellite dish until it lines up in the squares. It's very nice. It's very simple. I've been using it only because it's part of the preparation for when these major FCC companies such as Wave Broadband or Comcast or CenturyLink, their systems can get hit. And when they get hit, guess what? You're tied to a wire. And then now you're SOL. And if you look at what's happening in North Carolina, it's a prime example. There are people that are losing their lives because they have no communication. They have zero. If you don't have a satellite phone, get a satellite phone if you can afford it. Sat123.com has a great buy on satellite phones. You can buy them in bulk. You can buy just 10 minutes a month for a pretty cheap price. And I highly recommend doing that if you can't. The other element to think about is if you're the only one with communication and nobody else has communication around you, you're going to be SOL because you're not going to be able to communicate with anybody. This is the importance of community. This is the importance of getting like-minded people and understanding that this is going to happen. We are on borrowed time, my friends. We are on borrowed time. At any moment, could happen today. Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump's there right now, and supposedly Elon is supposed to show up. He might be making a big announcement as a cabinet appointee for a new branch or a new position for Elon. And I predict in the next couple weeks, you're going to start seeing a lot more of that. Because as you know, RFK is playing a very huge role in what's going to be assigned in the Trump cabinet. It's not going to be like 2016. It's not going to be like that again. And we're really excited for that. But we all have to do our part, because if we don't have groundwork laid out for Trump and his people to do his bidding, then they're not going to be able to have success within our communities. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, folks. Josh from Michael, Non-Compliant America. It's the third segment. Going into some more things that you can do to prepare for what's coming. Now, whether it happens or not, whether you're black-pilled by this show, which I do believe that there's hope. I do absolutely believe there's an interesting question yesterday in regards to the stolen election and everything else. And you got to remember, we're on God's time. As great as it would have been had Trump got in office in 2020, I personally believe that wouldn't have done us any justice. It would have been business as usual. Everybody was fat and happy and prosperous and was asleep. And so we needed this disheartening, discomfortable realization that we're not in Kansas anymore. We're at hour 11:59, 10 seconds to midnight. And we had to see it, and we had to experience it on how bad and how quickly things can turn around. And so if we're on God's time and we're talking about that, isn't this a tactic? Wouldn't this be the plan that he would do in order for us to learn that we have to be engaged into our lives and engaged into our liberties. Freedom's only freedom if we can keep it. Freedom's only freedom if we can exercise it and if we can practice it and if we have those. But if we go to sleep and just put our heads down and don't engage into this tyrannical system and fight against it in every way, and you don't have to get physical, you don't even have to confront these people. You can go confront them, but you need to pay with your dollar and pay with your mindset and get off of their systems. Don't do what they tell you to do. Become non-compliant. Does that make you a bad person? Yeah. Are you going to lose some friends? Yeah. Through some people's eyes. But who cares? We're on a preservation for this country, preservation for our families, and preservation for our futures. And it's a very bright future, I believe, is going to happen. But we are going to have to go through some dark times. And if you don't prepare, then you're not going to be able to react accordingly in a stable fashion with a good foundation of people and a good foundation of supplies and knowledge. One of the best things, some special forces guys that I know, we go out in the woods and they don't have survival packs and all this crap when they go out and they go hunting or whatever, because they understand, they have knowledge and wisdom on how to survive if they get into a situation. So the best thing that you can do is load up on knowledge, and then you don't have to have all the supplies because you can whip up things. You can make things out of different materials and different stuff and know how to make things work. Understand how things work. Don't be so dependent where you have to have your phone on you all the time in order to learn how to do stuff. Put your phone down and look at some of the things and kind of dissect it. Try to figure it out yourself before you start doing that. Before you start just jumping on YouTube and doing how-to videos. Because you're not retaining the knowledge the same. It's just like people don't retain phone numbers anymore. Most people don't know phone numbers. I actually still call people with the keypad and still dial their number just because it's faster to me than to go through the contacts or, use Siri and, ask Siri for everything. Know that they're listening to you and they're tracking you in every way. So what's going on in North Carolina is simply a microcosm of what's going to be happening across the country. Now, how are they going to do it? They're not going to be in your face, brazen, the way that they were during COVID. So there's an interesting thing with lithium mines in North Carolina. There was actually a company that's owned by BlackRock that was trying to acquire the late September, right before the hurricane came in. They were trying to acquire a federal permit to start mining lithium. Now, the town has been fighting them drastically on keeping them out of there from mining lithium. It's very dirty, it's very nasty, and it's just destructive to the environment and destructive to the surrounding towns and areas. And if you've ever seen this movie documentary, it's a movie/documentary called Dark Water. I think Russell Crowe was in it. It's very interesting because it talks about these different mining towns and how toxic the water systems were and around and how it was affecting the populations. But these were poor communities. They had no way to fight these big corporations. They had no way to get any representation, and he kind of took that on, and he took them head on and was representing these poor people that were basically dying and being killed by these poisons due to the regulatory lack of restrictions within these communities, and they were poisoning them, essentially. If you go back to the 60s and 70s, even the 50s, there's toxic waste dumps that right in Eastern Oregon. There's places in Eastern Oregon, they were dumping Agent Orange into the ground. And it affected and wiped out all these communities, and they didn't have any representation for that. And there's still lawsuits going on in regards to that. You can watch old videos where they're taking these barrels of Agent Orange and just dumping them into the into the ground, which eventually gets into the water supply. So it gets back to my original point, talking about how these corporations basically have no oversight. Vaccine corporations, big pharma corporations have indemnity nullification, where they don't have any liability. They have no liability to put poison inside of you. And so you have to fight back, and it is exhausting for people that are unaware of this stuff, because there's a certain governor where you're like, gosh, you don't have a microwave in your house. You don't have this. You don't have that. You don't have this. And my friends come over, they're like, where's your microwave? I don't have one. It's poison for you. Why don't you just drink water out of the faucet? Even though it's a well, it's great water. Why do you still filter it? Well, because there's glyphosates. There's all kinds of stuff in our water. And if you haven't got it tested, it's not just these forever chemicals that are in the city water supply, like SSRIs. They found lithium, which is a pill that people take. It's a psychotropic, or not a psychotropic. It's it's like a anti-bipolar drug or whatever. And they're finding all these SSRIs in the water supply because it doesn't filter out. It doesn't filter out, and so people are consuming it. So maybe that's what's going on. There's a massive amount of people taking antidepressants unknowingly. When you go to Starbucks and get your coffee from Starbucks, guess what? Starbucks ain't filtering that water. They're pulling it right out of the city water supply and dumping it into your coffee, and you're drinking it and consuming it every single day. Those things have drastic effects on your pineal gland and everything else in your body. It's not just fluoride. So maybe it's that. Maybe that's why this area is so docile and just lazy and weak and fat, and just they don't want confrontation. They're scared of any type of confrontation. But if you're not going to fight and have these confrontations against these wacko ideologies, like putting tampons in the boys' bathroom, which is at South Salem High School, which is unbelievable. If you're not going to fight up against that, what makes you think that you're going to fight against the real tyranny when it rolls out? The reality is you're not. You're not. I'm sorry. So enjoy your head in the sand and, have a great time doing it, because, you'll be happy in your simulated reality, but eventually they're just going to give you a shot, and then that'll be the end of it. Or they'll douse you with something, some type of bioweapon, something like that, and you're going to be screaming and crying for help at that moment when you have nothing and you've lost everything because you weren't paying attention, or you chose to ignore the warning signs. That's the hard reality. That's the real reality that we all need to digest and realize that's what's happening right now. And if you don't get prepared for anything, we don't even know what it's going to be. Most important thing you can do is get in line with God and Jesus Christ, because ultimately that is part of the plan. But there's a reason that we have to do major suffering, is because we've been ignoring things for decades. We've been ignoring the signs. We've been letting these people get through. We've been letting them get away with it. And the minute that you say no is the minute that things start to turn around for you, and you'll start to meet like-minded people. So those are my signs. That's kind of what I want to talk about mainly. Another thing that you can talk to in avoidance to potential spread of infectious diseases, there's different medications that you can get. Ivermectin is a great one to have in your medicine cabinet, and you don't always just have to take it in an emergencies. You can take it frequently. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending any doctor advice. However, if it were me and I take it under doctor's orders, everything else, it's one of those wonder drugs. It's always been the wonder drug that helps keep the bacteria and parasites at bay in your body, because a lot of infectious diseases and a lot of things come from parasites. So that's just another little tidbit. I know that Dr. Zaid, You can go on his website right now, and he has emergency antibiotic kits. I think there's 5 or 6 different antibiotics. Not all antibiotics are created equal. They're used for different things. There's skin types. There's, basic bacteria kinds. There's all these different kinds, and you can get a kit for your house right now. And maybe get a couple kits so you can have some for your family too. Because it's not just about us. It's about everybody around us. We'll be right back.
Money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
Okay, if you haven't figured out that the government's not your friend, the government's not here to help you, they will not help you. They don't care about you unless you're an illegal immigrant. Then they're going to give you the red carpet, roll you out, put you in a nice hotel, travel all over the country, give you $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month, and just lay you out. If you haven't figured out that that's what's going on and that's what the government is, then you're not paying attention. There's a whistleblower that just came out today, this morning. He warns that the FBI will be deploying plainclothes agents to Maricopa County polling stations to monitor Trump voters. Check this out. Arizona State Rep, I think it's Alexander Calderon, he's a Republican, sent a letter Thursday to the FBI Director Christopher Wray demanding an explanation for the whistleblowers claiming that the deployment of plainclothes agents is meant to ensure Trump voters don't get out of line. Quote, a move that could possibly lead to widespread voter suppression. Think about this, folks. Think about this. The FBI stands for effing bunch of idiots. He says, my office has recently received a report that the FBI will start stationing plainclothes agents in polling stations throughout Maricopa County. You think it's only going to be in Maricopa County? I don't think so. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Are you starting to see a pattern? The Governor Whitmer kidnapping, which got all dismissed because of the FBI involvement. January 6th, the FBI involvement. How many agents did they have? Unknown agents, plainclothes agents. These are the October surprises. These are the things that they're not talking about that, thank God, that they are exposing, like this Alexander Calderon from Arizona. Calderon made it clear that the House is prepared to take immediate action against any attempts by federal agencies to intimidate or censor Arizona voters. I sincerely hope that this disturbing allegation is false. Rest assured, however, that if your agent's here for any purpose that ensuring that every lawful voter is able to cast a ballot, the House is prepared to take immediate action to secure all Arizonians the equal protections of the law. They're working outside of the law. They don't care about the law. The law doesn't apply to these people. The law doesn't apply to them. It's perfectly okay for them to do things like this. And what's going to happen is they're going to do it anyway. Then we're going to be stuck in these court systems with these kangaroo courts, BS, nonsense. Meanwhile, there's still people locked up from January 6th that have yet to be charged. Think about that. Going on almost 4 years. They've been in solitary confinement, virtually no communication to the outside world, and they have not been charged yet. Are you starting to see the pattern? Are you starting to see where we're at? Are you starting to see? Because they're simply just trying to get you upset, and they want you to take up arms and get violent. That's what this move is. That's what this plan is. And that's not what we want to do. That's not what we're trying to do, and that's not how you do it. The parallel constructed economy in figuring out different systems to get out of these corporations. Stop consuming everything that they're giving you. Do your research. Buy from local farms, which you're going to need to do anyway. Because eventually, the grocery stores aren't going to be available. And so if you don't have good relationships with local farmers, for eggs, milk, cheese, meat, things like that. You can't just rely on the grocery store. One, it's better for you most of the time. And two, it's cheaper in some cases. And they're willing to do it. And you're building a relationship with a supply chain that you don't have all these intermediary corporations tampering with your food, tampering with your meat, tampering with different things. You get it directly from the source. How beautiful is that? So that's another way and another element that you can get prepared. They got this sale for these cheap little freezers at Home Depot right now. I think they're only like $150. But you can fit quite a bit of meat in there, and it's something that you can run off of a generator if you need to. Because you don't want to be caught flat-footed running to the grocery store when something crazy happens. You want to be prepared. You want to be able to communicate with your family, communicate with your community, communicate with your friends, and develop a plan. You guys don't all want to be panicking, rushing to the stores to get toilet paper or whatever, or food or water, or any type of supplies or materials like that. That's why you need to get the Civil Defense Manual, both Volume 1 and Volume 2. It's by Jack Lawson. It's a great, great book. Very informative. And it's better to be prepared than to not. Even if nothing happens, even if this is all fear-mongering, craziness that you think that it is, that's fine. That's fine, but you can still be prepared. Anything can happen. As you know, the ice storms. Remember when the ice storms happened? You know, how prepared were you when that happened? Were you going to try to find a generator plug so you can plug a generator in? Well, guess what? Those were sold out. You couldn't get them. Couldn't get them. So what are you going to do? Another story that I think is really important, and it's a peek into the lawlessness and the lawfare happening within the judicial system. As we know, it's happening it's been exposed with Arizona and the FBI and all that. But also, InfoWars with Alex Jones has just issued a dire warning today about them trying to shut him down. And he was talking about November 18th was the bankruptcy date where they were going to auction off InfoWars. Well, now the Justice Department has come in and they're trying to set up a conservatorship and have somebody oversee his life and control his bank accounts and control what he can and can't do. So he says that the precedent is being set to literally steal my identity and shut down InfoWars. The globalist deep state just took over their war on free speech, our very identities and very freedoms to the next level. They have now introduced a lawsuit against me where they literally claim my own name, my own social media, and me personally. Think about that. Because they don't want him to speak, which means he was one of the biggest advocates fighting against COVID. He exposed with Francis Boyle back in February of 2020 where the virus came from, that it was man-made, made out of the Wuhan lab. They dismantled the bat virus scandal immediately. He was one of the first people that do that. So they don't want his voice out there. So we need to get support behind him. You can go to realalexjones.com and make a donation that's going to go toward his legal fees. But it's a violation of the 13th Amendment that he says that we fought the Civil War over. They're actually saying that I'm an indentured servant and that I'm a slave. Ladies and gentlemen, I've always been the canary in the coal mine. This is the Overton window into the future of the tyrannical system in which what they're going to try to do to anybody that gets out of line and doesn't follow this new system, this great reset system. When they get through me, they're coming after you. Jones emphasized an overwhelming support that he's now receiving at realalexjones.com. You can go there. Understand that they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be going through all these steps. They wouldn't be installing FBI agents at Maricopa County if they weren't worried about the rise of the people understanding of everything that I've always talked about of being non-compliant against this new tyrannical system that they're trying to roll out. It is only up to us. Yes, we love Trump. Yes, we love the precedent he's setting. Yes, we love what he's bullying through in the federal system. But the way that we win and the way that we get back everything is looking inward and preserving our own selves and our own communities for this future chaos that we're about to endure. I'm Joshua Michael, Noncompliant America. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to follow me on X to get all the most recent news at Noncompliant AF.